Oh, thank you. I hope you're all having a good time, but I have to warn you that the good times stop here because I have a cautionary tale for you. I want to tell you about something that happened to me when I was 17 years old in 1968. Some of you are old enough to remember 1968. They always say if you can remember it, you weren't really there. But most of America knew 1968 as the summer of love. But in my house, it was the year that I was arrested for murder. I know. I grew up in Kenilworth, Illinois, which was a lovely suburb just north of Chicago, right on the lake. Kenilworth was then, and is today, a very well-to-do place. If you were born with a silver spoon in your mouth in Kenilworth, you were from the wrong side of the tracks. It was a lovely place to live, but it was also a fact that the leading cause of death in adolescents between the ages of 14 and 19 was boredom, because there was absolutely nothing to do in Kenilworth. I was blessed that summer with an exceptional group of friends that had amazing imaginations. And our number one pastime was sitting around and dreaming up things that we could do that might cause a little bit of excitement. Now, most of these were the type of things that you say, wouldn't it be funny if we did this or if we did that? And then they'd disappear. We'd never think of them again. But one day, we decided it would be really funny to fake a murder. The next day, I was stunned when my friends came over to my house and said, "We're gonna do it." Now, you might not realize that there are a lot of things that you have to do to execute a fake murder. First, you have to assign the roles. Being the biggest ham bone of the group, I was chosen to be the victim. My friend Lou was going to be the assassin. My friend Marty was going to be the getaway driver. And my friend Doug was there to provide audience reaction, because we were quite sure that nobody was going to pay any attention to anything that we did. The next thing you have to do is provide the special effects. At the time, I was underemployed as a counselor at a day camp in the elementary school across the street from my house, where we did a lot of track and field events. And they had a track pistol, which I borrowed. So we had the gun. The next thing you have to do is figure out, the blood, where does that come from? Now, this was before the days of Ziploc bags, but we did have sandwich bags, and I found out that if you filled a sandwich bag with tomato puree, this was Kenilworth, no ketchup, we went with tomato puree, and if you heated up a screwdriver on your mom's stove and kind of dragged it slowly across the bag, it would create a seal that would not break until you slapped the bag. So we had all the gore we needed. The last thing we had to find was disguises for the hitman and the getaway driver. A quick visit up to my sister's dresser, sacrifice of a pair of pantyhose, and we were there. So here's how it all went down. We all got in the car. Marty had a particularly menacing-looking 1967 Pontiac Bonneville. We drove to within about 4 blocks of the bus station in Evanston, Illinois. We couldn't do this in Kenilworth. Evanston was a suburb about 4 miles south of Kenilworth, about 70,000 people with a very vibrant bus station. We let Doug out so he could go to the bus stop and he could be prepared to provide the audience reaction. As he tootled along, they let me out, and I walked slowly towards the bus station with my bag of gore taped onto my back and a white t-shirt, just waiting to get soaked in gore. I got just in front of the bus station where everybody was waiting, and this Pontiac Bonneville came up slowly behind. It slowed to a stop. Lou opened the door, braced his arm on the frame of the door, and pumped 3 shots into my back. I slapped my back, gave my best double pirouette, and fell to the ground. Lou got out of the car. He grabbed me by the scruff of the neck and by the belt. Marty popped the trunk. They threw me in the trunk, closed the trunk, laid rubber, getting out of the bus station. Doug, waiting for his big moment, throws his newspaper aside and says, "I've got the license plate number." I'm not sure what that was supposed to do, but that was his role, and he played it well. So we drove away about 4 blocks when the guys let me out of the trunk of the car, and we were having a great laugh, waiting for Doug to show up so we could all drive home. We laughed and laughed until we heard the first siren. At that point, we decided Doug could probably find his own way home, and we took off. So we were cruising, obeying all posted speed limits to get out of Evanston as quickly as we could. We passed a police car at the intersection, and he noticed us, and the flashing lights went on, the siren went on, he pulled a vicious U-turn, and the chase was on. There was only one thing we could do. There was a grocery store about a half a block up. We thought we could drive into the parking lot, go into the grocery store, and get lost in the crowd. It might have worked, but we never got the chance to find out. As we were getting out of the car, 3 police cars pulled in the entrance, 3 police cars pulled in the exit, and what seemed to us like about 100 cops came out of the cars, every one of them with a shotgun pointed at our heads. This was a moment of clarity, because it was clear to us that we had screwed up. We were handcuffed, we were thrown in the back of the police cars, we were taken to the Evanston police station, where we began to sing like the canaries we were. We gave up every detail of our plot in excruciating detail so quickly that the Kenilworth police were waiting in Doug's driveway by the time he ran the 4 miles home to Kenilworth. So we had to take this as a learning experience, and there was a lot of lessons that we learned. Number 1, when you commit a murder in Evanston, the switchboard at the police station lights up like a Christmas tree. Number 2, far from being the Barney Fifes that we were used to seeing on TV, these guys were very efficient and very serious about their jobs. We found out that they had roadblocks set up all the way to Springfield, Illinois, some 200 miles south of Evanston. We also discovered that there may be consequences that you hadn't anticipated. The police officer that was assigned to me told me that he had been at the bus station an hour before we pulled our stunt, and had he seen it go down while he was there, he probably would have returned fire. But the most important lesson I learned is that if you're gonna do something like this, don't do it on the day when your mother's in the beauty parlor. Because that means they have to call your father, even if he's in the middle of a conference with his most important client. Yeah, things were tense around our house for quite a while. I remember at breakfast the next morning, there was not a word spoken about anything. And imagine my surprise when Paul Harvey's report came on the radio, and he told America all about our little plan. Paul, by the way, thought it was pretty damn funny. So that's basically the story. I do have one epilogue for you. About 6 years later, I was starting a career as a banker in Evanston, Illinois. And I was at the local Holiday Inn cocktail lounge telling this story to some of my friends, some of my fellow coworkers. And one of the people that was there was our liaison officer with the Evanston Police Department. I ran into him a week after I told him the story. And he says, "You know, I told some of the guys down at the station that I ran into you." I said, "You're kidding, do they remember?" He says, "They sure did." I said, "Well, what did they say?" He says, "They wanted to know if you were still an asshole."